Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. Rather than talking about books I've already read, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the eARCs given to me by Netgalley, because I want to find out which of these books you want to hear me review first. I have 5 here. They actually come out over the next 5 months. I've started one of them, but if there's one that y'all really want to hear about more, then I'll switch and I'll start reading that one first. They are a mixture of adult science fiction and fantasy and one young adult historical fiction. Let's talk about them in the order that they are going to be published. The first book on my list is Engines of Empire, which comes out in mid-January. From an unmissable voice in epic fantasy comes a sweeping tale of clashing guilds, magic-fueled machines, and revolution. The nation of Torwin is run on the power of industry, and industry is run by the guilds. Chief among them are the Hawkspurs, whose responsibility is to keep the gears of the empire turning. That's exactly why matriarch Rosamond Hawkspur sends each of her heirs to the far reaches of the nation. Connell, the eldest son, is sent to the distant frontier to earn his stripes in the military. It is here that he faces a threat he could never have seen coming, the first rumblings of revolution. Tyretta is a sorceress with the ability to channel the power of Pyrestone, the magical resource that fuels the Empire's machines. She is sent to the mines to learn more about how Pyrestone is harvested, but instead she finds the dark horrors of industry that the Empire would prefer to keep hidden. The youngest, Fulren, is a talented artificer and finds himself acting as a guide to a mysterious foreign emissary. Soon after, he is framed for a crime he never committed, a crime that could start a war. Doesn't that sound so cool? So this book is coming out sooner. I should probably read it first, but I want to know what y'all think. The next book on my list is another adult fantasy called The Justice of Kings, which comes out in February. This is the one that I have already started, and I'm really enjoying it so far. From a new debut author in epic fantasy comes the first book in a trilogy where action, intrigue, and magic collide. The Justice of Kings introduces an unforgettable protagonist destined to become a fantasy icon, Sir Conrad von Valt, an Emperor's Justice, who is a detective, judge, and executioner all in one. But these are dangerous times to be a justice. I think that's all I'm going to read. It is told from the perspective not of the justice himself, but of his niece, who is a clerk for him, and she's 18, 19 years old, which adds a nice flavor to the events that they're seeing. So far where I am in the story, which is the opening, they are investigating the murder of a lord's wife, and I'm sure it's destined to be more than it appears on the surface. The next book is an adult science fiction. The cover of this one really intrigued me, although I'll admit I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the title correctly. Arkhangelsk, with the extra letters in there. This one comes out in March. Head peace officer Anya Savalova believed her people, living on a hostile planet in the icebound city of Noviarka, were the last of humanity, until the day she learned they weren't. When a starship from Earth, thought long dead, appears in orbit over her world, Anya imagines an explosion of possible futures, offering her people the freedom to transcend the limiting environment of the planet they'd thought was their last refuge. In the starship's crew, Anya finds creativity, diversity, innovation, all things the colony has had to inhibit to survive. Seeing her world through the eyes of a starship crew makes Anya look closer at her city's inconsistencies, oddities she's always been told to ignore. But the harder she pushes at the pieces that don't fit, the more her government perceives the strangers as a threat. There are secrets in Noviarka hiding in plain sight that the strangers can't possibly understand, and Anya's desire to uncover them risks shredding the fragile web holding together everything she's ever known and loved. I saw someone talking about this on Twitter, and it really piqued my interest. So, March. Next is the young adult historical fiction called This Rebel Heart. The Foundations of Silence meets Spinning Silver in this rollicking tale set amid the 1956 Hungarian Revolution in post-World War II communist Budapest. In the middle of Budapest, there is a river. Scylla knows the river is magic. During World War II, the river kept her family safe when they needed it most, safe from the Holocaust. But that was before the communists seized power, before her parents were murdered by the Soviet police, before Scylla knew things about her father's legacy that she wishes she could forget. Now Scylla keeps her head down, planning her escape from this country that has never loved her the way she loves it. But her carefully laid plans fall to pieces when her parents are unexpectedly publicly exonerated. As the protests in other countries spur talk of a larger revolution in Hungary, Scylla must decide if she believes in the promise and magic of her deeply flawed country enough to risk her life to help save it, or if she should let it burn to the ground. With queer representation, fabulous elements, and a pivotal but little-known historical moment, this Rebel Heart is Catherine Locke's tour de force. This setting and the history here is something that I don't know a lot about, and I'm really interested to learn more. And of course, it is written from the perspective of someone who shares this culture. The last book is another adult science fiction. This one comes out in May. It's called Under Fortunate Stars. It's described as a modern progressive homage to classic space opera stories with flawed heroes and time travel. 2 ships, 1 chance to save the future. Fleeing the final days of the generations-long war with the alien Felon, smuggler Jarlath Keevan's freighter, the Jonah, breaks down in a strange rift in deep space, with little chance of rescue, until they encounter the research vessel Galleon, which claims to be from 152 years in the future. The Galleon's chief engineer, Uma Osaka, has always been fascinated with the past, especially the tale of the Fortunate Five, who ended the war with the Felon. When the Galleon rescues a rundown junk freighter, Osaka is shocked to recognize the Five's legendary ship and the Five's famed leader, Eldrick Lysengrosky, among the crew. But nothing else about Lysengrosky and his crewmates seems to match up with the historical record, with their ships running out of power in the rift, more than the lives of both crews may be at stake. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Star Trek Enterprise and their galactic temporal Civil War. Sort of? I don't know. I'm really interested about this one. It comes out in May. So those are the 5 advanced reading copies that I currently have on Netgalley for books that are coming out soon, early this year. Please let me know which ones you're interested in hearing about first so I can prioritize how I read them. And please let me know any other new releases or coming soon books that I should add to my list. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to support your local library.